Originally in Spanish, February 22, 2022. I see things. I don't really sleep. My body does, but I remain conscious on other planes. I have visions all the time. They are not always relevant. I see salt. I see people on Earth being attacked with salt. Salt in various forms or chemical compounds derived from salt that end up not being the type of salt their nervous system, especially brain, needs, being left with a deficit of sodium of the correct type, which opens the human mind to parasitization and zombification, mind control, closing them off from seeing what is obvious. A zombie, as it is known in Haiti, is created by bringing a person to the brink of irreversible death with the use of black magic. Everything that makes it up complicated. Where doctors declare a person dead and on the verge of being buried, but they are in a kind of magical stasis. The magic is real, but not like in Harry Potter, although there is some of that too. And that is when, as other people leave, the magician, sorcerer, recovers the body and partially awakens it. I see vision that, at least in part, that black magic composes or is composed of substances that desalify the body, remaining in a state of low propagation or transmission of nerve impulses. In Africa and Haiti, where the zombification of people is common to this day, the people who are left for dead by their relatives are taken away, where they are used as slave labor, mostly in plantations of all kinds, especially drugs, vision again. And it is not the classic zombie like in the movies, where it is a putrefied being animated by an entity of the lower astral that has never been incarnated as a human. Therefore, it does not realize that it is not a human and that it is necessary to clean and wash itself, nor is it aware that its body is falling apart. This zombie is literally a living dead. Its body is alive, but its soul consciousness is at a minimum. It has withdrawn, and the body is only alive in a state of extensive brain and nerve damage. As in deep coma then, but manipulable and walking? So this kind of zombie must still be fed. It is said in Haiti that a zombie of this kind, manipulable and walking, yes, that only receives simple orders from those who control it with black magic, should never be given any salt in its poor diet, composed of food made of elements with a minimum of sodium or where all sodium has been removed. Sodium is an element without which the nervous system cannot function, because it is what provides the electrical transmission potential to the nerve cells. bodies are electrical. They do not function on calories. Everything is electrical potential and its interaction of transmission and retention voltages between cells. If the system decays, you enter a disease process. All types, depending on where the electrical problem is. Because everything is psychosomatic, a process of consciousness that manifests, that curdles, that agglomerates energy into something tangible called matter. This by energetic nodes, as explained in Mechanics of Manifestation. So, you control the sodium in the body, specifically the sodium-potassium cellular pump effect, and you control the electrical impulse and electrical transmission potential of a body. And you control over where or how much frequency of electrical current can be achieved by changing the sodium type transmitting potential that predominates in the body. Going back to the Haitian zombies, when a controlling sorcerer has no more use for his zombies, or when he feels that someone will find him with them, whoever they are, let's say authorities, then what this sorcerer will give each zombie is food with sodium, or give them a handful of sea salt in their hand and order them to eat it. It is said that it is there when they progressively wake up from that trance, from that lethargy or stasis, quite fast, in a matter of minutes or hours. The text do not specify. And the subject, regaining consciousness, still in a state of high confusion, will wander through the countryside, through the streets, until he recovers more or enough consciousness, sometimes already being caught by the police for being lost, or taken for being drugged or drunk. And from there, he gets identified, and that is when he finally meets with his relatives, I guess. Right now, industrial table salt in all countries contains sodium fluoride. Sodium fluoride neutralizes the salt and changes its electrical transmission potential to a specific frequency range, which the controllers already have, who in turn impose their black magic mind control on them using multiple systems or methods, from mass media or direct black magic. Sodium fluoride is present in basically all industrialized foods, not only in toothpastes. We also find the large-scale presence of monosodium glutamate, which demyelinates neurons by lowering their depolarization potential in their axons, hindering electrical transmission in general. Basically, what monosodium glutamate does is like removing or thinning the insulation of an electrical wire, causing leaks and short circuits. From there, we find a number of saline chemical compounds in processed foods that also alter the transmission frequency and electrical potential of the human body's nervous system. So, since the electrical energy of the human body is based on microfrequencies and coupled with other technologies such as electromagnetic radiation and now inoculations, and this whole system is altered by the lack of the right kind of salt, the zombie effect, at least for me, is explained from an angle never seen before. Keep in mind that I saw all this from the astral side. Sodium is good and necessary. It is not true that it causes blood pressure to rise due to fluid retention and other biochemical processes. I see this demonizing of salt as part of the control over the sodium of the earth in order to zombify or stupidify the masses. One should take sea salt, real, pure, or pure mineral derivatives of salt, such as Himalayan salt and the like, non-industrialized salt. And fluoridated salt consumption should be avoided at all costs. There is mineral salt from mines. It is not as good as the sea one in my opinion, but at least it is not fluoridated.
Cooking with seawater?
If it is pure, yes, but I feel that the unprocessed one you get in health food stores is enough.
Yes, people already know about the sea salt versus industrial salt, but they don't know about the zombification you mentioned. That is new. Wow.
I see a connection between salt, industrialized salt that modulates the possible electrical frequency of the central nervous system, sodium fluoride, another kind of altered salt, with the mental lethargy in which humanity finds itself. As is already known, sodium fluoride is used to lull people to sleep, to make them docile and submissive. This is part of the sorcery I'm talking about, of the black magic present. Because there is black magic here. I see it. They use it.
So in the zombie, it is still the same consciousness as before, but with less connection in the body, right? It doesn't mean that some astral parasitic entity has entered, because you say that by giving them some salt, they return to their previous state of consciousness.
Astral parasites, yes, a little bit of everything. Because the modification of the frequency of the bioelectric process of a body makes it concord to parasitization.
Wow. Okay, yes, it makes a lot of sense. Collective global black magic. Sure, if it is used in small ceremonies, why wouldn't it work on the collective scale?
They use it. And I know they use it because I noticed that the rabbis use something called pulsa de nura, which they say is not a ritual, but ritual it is. Pulsa de nura is just black magic disguised as divine will.
And what is the ultimate purpose? To further idiotize the population?
Control of the masses, with a view to global depopulation, to avoid the Great Awakening.
What is pulsa de nura?
Pulsa de nura is a ritual, although the rabbis say it is not, where 10 holy men, pure rabbis, all having to have families and children, all over 40 years old, and after exactly 3 days of fasting, pray and read passages from one of their secret books connected to the Kabbalah or from the Kabbalah as hidden texts, where they ask for divine intervention to judge a person or a situation and give an end to the problem, elimination of that person or resolution of the problem in question, in favor of the one who asks pulsa de nura. The rabbis must be pure of mind and tradition, and what they ask for must be concise and clear, because they are supposed to be asking for divine intervention and for God to judge a person or circumstances, situation, and if God sees or realizes that what they ask for is not justified by falsely accusing a person, for example, the Pulsa Denura will be reversed to the 10 rabbis, and a curse will fall upon them and their families for 4 generations. That is to say that whatever the 10 pure rabbis ask against something or someone, if it is reversed, they will have it on them for 4 generations. So they should be very careful with what they ask for. They say it is not a ritual. However, I realized that it is, from the moment they use blood sacrifices of white chickens to enhance their ritual. Who says not from other animals and people? It is said that the Pulsa Denura is not ritual and that it invokes the power of God. However, from someone observing this from the outside, it has a clear tinge of even satanic ritual. I don't see it as invoking God's judgment and His divine intervention. It is more of the same story of God Yahweh asking for ritual sacrifices, scapegoats, which is killing a boy instead of your son, and ultimately, supposedly, sending His own son Jesus to sacrifice, so that His martyrdom would atone for the original sin of mankind, thereby saving the souls of all who follow Him. Ergo, they use rituals.
You said they use it, and I know they use it because I noticed that the rabbis use something called Pulsa Denura. But what does the black magic the controllers use have to do with the fact that the rabbis do it? Why did you make this connection?
Rabbis are high priests of Judaism. It is Egypt base, Cabal base. It's them. They are part of the Illuminati system. And just if the rabbis themselves are able to do all that with the Pulsa Denura, which works, imagine what the regressive Illuminati high controllers can do. It's just logical. They do it. They invoke all sorts of lower astral entities and who knows what else to accomplish their purposes. That is why I say all this. That is why I assure that people are under black magic aided by electromagnetic frequencies, in turn enhanced by body sodium control.
Thank you. I understand. And you have seen this in the astral vision, yes? The sodium and the zombies.
Yes. I didn't even have this in mind last night when I fell asleep. I saw it as a whole. As I told you, I have a lot of astral activity. Higher up, it makes sense. It's a renewal of the earth. Higher up, everything will change according to where you are, who you are. Your frequency defines the person and vice versa. Everything is frequency compatibility. But in the process, many will die, and that cannot be avoided now.
But also note that there are many protests happening now all over the world. I am not just talking about the truckers. Someone asked me if you are seeing this, how humanity is rebelling.
Yes!
Do they rebel or being manipulated?
They rebel, they protest, they do not obey.
Both on a large scale, making it hard to see who is controlled opposition and who is not. Some, like the truckers, may very well have started out as controlled opposition that then got out of hand. However, they have already contemplated this, that there will be some and great opposition. The controllers are very strong, especially creating false realities for the people. Basically, human society, history and science is based on nothing, on lies and castles of cards. Also remember that the protests and such are scenarios for false flags and for the introduction of agents to move a peaceful demonstration in the direction of a violent one, with a view to the collapse of public support for the demonstration that began peacefully. The only thing that counts here is the struggle for one's own soul, and on a personal level more than anything else. That is where this is won or lost. The moment they have made this a war, people versus cabal, they lose. Because wars of all kinds, from weaponized to mental ones, only exist when there are opponents. It's not even a matter of beating the cabal, per se, but of focusing on being genuine and in accord with yourself. All you have to do is follow the interests of your soul, not those of the Matrix Collective, controlled and manipulated by the cabal. They must follow what they believe is right, and what they perceive as reality. So if they wish to protest, so be it. However, mass disobedience is the correct response. Ignore governments en masse. But since there is not enough mass of the population ignoring governments en masse, then I see it valid to resort to any method they see possible, except doing nothing and folding their hands and obeying. That never.
And if resisting and fighting the cabal is what one feels is genuine and in accordance with their soul,
then that should be done, remembering that no clowns, no circus. That is why we have always said that you should see, read, and listen to everything that is within your reach, so that from there you can form a personal criterion about the nature of reality on which each one bases his or her life, always keeping in mind that you should not become attached to systems of thought, even if they are agreeable to you, and always have the necessary flexibility to adopt new ideas, discarding the previous ones as things develop. And even if they die in the struggle, if that is what they want, that is winning, because they were faithful to their principles, ergo faithful to their souls, which makes their incarnation worthwhile.
But to be true to your principles, to say, I do not consent, is more than enough.
It depends on the level of consciousness of each person and the capacities they have. For example, people who feel they have no influence over others, like many starseeds, where even their families don't pay attention to them, only have to be completely true to themselves. And with that, they are already doing their work and fulfilling their life purpose. But a person with greater responsibility, such as yourselves, should continue within their capabilities in the fight in more direct ways, as their power is much greater, or their range of influence, or whatever. A person who feels he has no power at all does have it over himself, and that is a lot. That is what it is all about. Being true to your souls. To guard them and not allow them to be taken away, either by mind control or weaponized sodium. If they cannot, or feel that they cannot, contribute anything to the fight, they can always contribute broken shoes. Broken shoes. If only they save themselves, their souls, that is enough. That is what they are there for.